This is our second program on social stock exchange. First, we organized when the concept paper was there on 3rd December 2021. Now, this is the second program after the SEBI has given the finality on this. So friends, SEBI has recently amended the ICDR and AIF regulation to provide regulatory framework for registration with social stock exchange and for raising fund. Changes have also been made in LODR regulation, laying down compliance obligation and disclosure of the social enterprises. As a precursor, the central government has declared zero coupon, zero principal instrument, popularly known as ZC, ZP, as securities for purpose of SCRA. This is first instrument they have declared. In future, other instrument will also come. Today's webinar focus on all these developments as well as other updates which are critical for social stock exchange. Today we will discuss on all issues: concept of social stock exchange in social enterprise, registration of social enterprises and with social stock exchange, modes and procedure of raising fund by social enterprises through social stock exchange, disclosure requirement for social enterprise towards social stock exchange, regulatory update in company and securities law, and then we have various people, regulator, those who have made this, the stock exchange, those who will implement, and professional, those who will help and guide the companies and the social enterprise, and then the NGO, those who are always facing fund problem and what is their view on this concept. So friends, we will discuss these issues. We will request regulator that he can tell us that how this ecosystem is built and how the stock exchange will function. We will feel that it will take place. Evaluation of stock exchange, funding for social welfare activities and new development that Mr. Hemant Gupta, who is the managing director of the working in this same area. Nitesh and Anjali will discuss about the what is the law they have prescribed in a very crisp manner, and then NSC stock exchange will discuss about the how the stock exchange is ready for this, and Mr. Professor Khanna will discuss about the pain of the NGOs and how they see future. So friends, today we have learned speaker. First, Mr. Jeevan Sonepal, he is in a meeting. He will join shortly. He's Chief General Manager SEBI and in charge of this particular division. And social stock exchange, he was the part and parcel of the entire discussion. Then we have Mr. Abhishek Rojatkar. He is Assistant General Manager SEBI in a corporate finance division, has more than 14 years professional experience. He has worked in various policy matters, including DVR, minimum public shareholding, minimum public offer, rationalizing promoter definition, lock-in, preferential issue. He was actively associated involvement of creation of framework for social stock exchange, and I welcome Abhishek for this program. Then we have Abhishek Nair. He's a Vice President Listing NSC. He's in SEBI meeting with Mr. Jeevan, sir. As soon as they will free, they will come. And in the meantime, Rachna Musaria is with us. She's Vice President and Head Primary Market NSC, and she's also in charge in the stock exchange relating to the development of the social stock exchange. So we will understand from their side what is their preparation, how they will go ahead. Then we have Hemant Gupta. He's a Managing Director of BRT SIF, the technology incubator at BSc. He led the building of the platform of CSR matchmaking and management that was acquired by MC and relaunched as a national CSR exchange in 2022. He was also a member of the working committee and technical group constituted by SEBI for setting up a social stock exchange. He's currently working to launch the SSE at BSc. So he has complete knowledge on this, and the CSR and this stock exchange will have a very, very interesting relationship in future. We will understand from him. We have, I welcome Hemant Gupta for this program. Then we have Professor Siddhan Khanna. He's Managing Trustee at Voice Society, then India's leading consumer organization. Professor Khanna has been Head and Dean of the Department of Commerce at Delhi School of Economics University of Delhi with 33 years experience of teaching and research. I welcome Professor Khanna for this program. Then we have Anjali Agrawal. She's partner at Head Capital Market, corporate professional, having a 19 years experience and handle the various capital market related transaction. And she is the in charge of social stock exchange work in corporate professional. I welcome Anjali. Then we have Nitesh Latwal, who is commerce and law graduate and member of ICSI. He is having a 10 years experience in corporate advisory, and he do the compliance audit and covering all laws, including industry, labor, corporate law. And Nitesh has done the deep study of this concept. The reports of all the 2 reports have out by SEBI, and Nitesh has done the thorough research, and he has so many issues we will discuss today. Friends, as you are aware that this particular concept is new in India. And if you see that any concept which is coming to India, we think that other part of the world is already following, but it is not. In the world also, very few examples are available. Social Stock Exchange, United Kingdom, which came out in June 2013, and Social Venture Connection, that is in Canada, 2013, Impact Exchange, that is Singapore and Mauritius in 2013, and then we have a Jamaica Stock Exchange, which has the social stock exchange platform. Friends, as you are aware, that these are the 4-5 exchange in the world. They are providing this type of thing, and they have a very interesting concept. Like Social Exchange, United Kingdom has a for-profit companies and non-profit companies both. So for-profit company you can list also, but you cannot raise fund. Then Canada Exchange, it is a market for good, and they are impact first platform, and how new debt and equity investment scheme which can demonstrate social and environmental impact they have provided. The Impact Exchange Mauritius, they are talking about the public gateway, and they are talking about the humanity bond, women's livelihood bond, whereas new concept the world is experiencing. Jamaica Stock Exchange, they are talking about the socially responsible investor are able to invest in wholesome projects that require public funding, and by extension promote the socio-cultural economy and the promotion of the physical environment. So you can understand that how these exchange which are there, no doubt when the exchange word comes, it is coming that raising fund. So this fundraising is a different type of raising fund, and I hope that the committee and the law which they have propagated or promulgated, that is coming out with the after thorough research and the impact of India and what is Indian need, after that they have come out. And we will see so many new things in this, which I hope. And friends, after this, we can understand that after this concept will be out, then social enterprise, NPO, non-profit organization, FPSC, for-profit organization, social auditor, impact assessment, registration of these enterprises, one-stop solution, and then CSR and this stock exchange will have some type of interesting relationship, and then listing of Jet C, Jet P. And the interesting point is in India, there are report that there are around 30 lakhs NGO. You can understand these 30 lakhs NGO, out of this 30 lakhs NGO, they are getting fund from government, public, and various foreign fund. And in the foreign fund, there was in 2017-18, 16,000 crore rupees has come as foreign fund in India, which has reduced to 1,900 crore at present in 1920 because of the restriction by government. So today, these organization and NGO requires fund, and they require that how the fund can come. But the point is in India, everybody is ready to fund, because India is a society where Dharmada culture was prevalent since beginning. And we were always providing money to Dharmada account. And we have seen in our past business also, the Dharamshala, the Piyao, and the various other things these people were making, plantation of tree, various other things they have done. Now the CSR has given a new dimension, But the problem is the majority CSR fund, they are giving money to their own foundation, which is as per the law, what is allowed. So today, all these people require fund. And I can understand because I'm the part of the Voice. I'm also the trustee of Voice, so I can understand that these types of organizations which are surviving on government fund, or they cannot take fund from the people just like this, they are always having a problem. They are ready to disclose. They are ready to showcase their impact. They are ready to show that how they are doing, but they don't have fund and they don't have source also. But I hope that this new development will bring out in India this conceptualizes in a very systematic manner and one platform for all these. And I hope and I'm expecting in future that one system is there that anybody wants to take money first registered and then you can raise money. And by doing this, because you are disclosing, you are giving all compliances, you are in the eyes of public, you will be the darling of the people, those who want to give money to these people. With these things, I hope that all these people, those who have called today, they are somewhere part of this committee and the lawmaking process. So I will start with Abhishek. What is your call relating to this and how SEBI has done, and what is the plan of SEBI when you think that these things will take place? Abhishek, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Let me begin with first bringing out what actually started this entire process in our country. And it all started with the finance minister's announcement during her budget speech, wherein she said that it is time, let me just rephrase it, it is time to take our capital markets closer to the masses and meet various social welfare objectives related to inclusive growth and financial inclusion. I propose to initiate steps towards creating an electronic fundraising platform, a social stock exchange, under the regulatory ambit of SEBI for listing social enterprises and voluntary organizations working for the realization of a social welfare objective so that they can raise capital as equity, debt, or as units like mutual funds. So Pawan sir, I think you just mentioned about other jurisdictions where there are similar social stock exchanges, but none of these jurisdictions have a social stock exchange under the capital market as a regulator. And that in that sense, I think we are unique and we are in fact trendsetter to say in this regard. So yes, this is something in which we are ahead of the curve right now. And with this particular base as finance minister's statement, we wanted to build forward. And like all of us in financial profession, we were a little bit out of touch with what exactly are the requirements in this particular sector. We constituted a working group under the chairmanship of Ishaq Hussain. Hemant sir was also part of it. And subsequently, when we got a broad idea of what kind of structures we are looking forward to, we constituted a technical group under the chairmanship of Dr. Bhanwala, and we drill down towards what specific areas in which we can, look forward to having a social stock exchange. But primarily, what our understanding during the entire process was that this entire ecosystem is there is a lot of mistrust between the or trust deficit between the funders and the fund receivers. So to overcome that, we need a stricter norms or disclosure norms, or more we can say more easily accessible information about the fund receiver. So in this case, it is the social enterprises. So towards this aim, we had to develop the disclosure norms as well as a social audit standard, which will help us in achieving this goal. Honestly speaking, we are working on a very big puzzle, so to speak, wherein we have only maybe 80% of chips in our hand. We don't know whether the rest of the 20% chips are and where they will fit in. It's a it's a work in progress, but it's kind of on the job. So we'll figure out when we reach there as to how to cross those hurdles. But broadly, I think this particular ecosystem, as the first step is to have a social stock exchange. And apart from that, I think we would also be requiring social auditors. We'll also be requiring a capacity building fund. These are two primary areas which will help this particular sector to grow, as well as to create awareness for both the fundraisers as well as for the investors. So these are some of the key elements that we see in the ecosystem. Uh, there is another requirement that we are looking forward to, which is on how do we go ahead with respect to listing these companies, these social enterprises, given the fact that they cannot raise funds through traditional funding mechanisms. So equity is out for NPOs. So we had to innovatively bring out a new security called zero coupon, zero principal. In honest terms, it is a donation. It's nothing more than a donation, because once you say zero coupon and zero principal, there is nothing left for the investor to receive. So with this particular instrument, maybe yes, we cover one aspect of the fundraising mechanism, but there could be an instance where a funder would want to receive some sort of financial return. So for that purpose as well, we have another innovative product which is called Development Impact Bond, which utilizes both a zero coupon, zero principal, as well as an AR structure, a combination of which allows some sort of financial return if the social objectives are met to the risk investor. So with that, I think I would like to pause here, and maybe if later on, if you have any more questions for me, I'll jump in. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you very much. The most interesting part, which everybody is asking this question, which you have, I think, given answer, that zero coupon, zero principal. The word is very clear, and it means nothing is left for you. You are donating, and don't gift cannot take back. Thank you very much for giving. And as soon as if Jeevan sir comes, please tell
Sure,
us.
sir. Sure.
So now I'll discuss about the evaluation of social funding for social welfare activities under the new development of SSC. Now, Mr. Hemant Gupta is a person who is working hard on various aspects of the CSR, because they have made a platform of CSR fund taker and giver. Same concept is also social stock exchange will work in a larger framework. So your call, Mr. Gupta, what your view on the entire thing?
Sure. I hope you guys can hear me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Hemant, we can hear you.
Yeah, sir, we
Okay,
can.
great. I think with the introduction that Abhishek gave, it's very hard to kind of add too much to it, but I will try. So essentially, two or three things that I want to talk about. One is the fact that the social stock exchange is meant for for-profit enterprises as well as for not-for-profit enterprises. The focus today is, of course, not-for-profit enterprises, but I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that it is accessible to for-profit enterprises also. Second is that by design, the social stock exchange has certain entry criteria that must be satisfied by a not-for-profit if they want to list on the social stock exchange. And just one more detail, actually. So if you read the reports that have been published, the social stock exchange is actually a segment on the existing stock exchange. It's not a new stock exchange. It's actually just another part of the existing BSE and NSE. The other piece that is important here is, just like in a stock exchange, before a company can list, they have to achieve a certain size and they have to have a certain minimum funding requirement. An NPO wanting to come onto the social stock exchange will also have to satisfy certain eligibility criteria as well as come to the stock exchange. with requirements of a certain size. And I'll cover both of these as we continue our discussion. The third is that
Mr. Hemant, you have to speak a little louder.
okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. The third is that the social stock exchange is intended for investors from across the spectrum and not just CSR funders. So it could include retail investors as long as they satisfy the minimum ticket size that is required. It could include other philanthropic professionals or individuals also. So just stepping back, let's cover each of those items one by one, and then I'll be happy to take any questions. So the first is from a process perspective. Like I said, an NPO that wants to list on the social stock exchange has to basically, there are 3 steps that are involved. The first is any entity, for profit or not for profit, wanting to list on the social stock exchange has to demonstrate primacy of social intent. What does primacy of social intent mean? It means that at least 2/3 of your activities are directed towards things that create a social impact and are beneficial for the underprivileged. And the technical report lays out 15 plus activities and is open, leaves the door open to add or make changes to that list. So you have to be working in one of those activities, areas of focus. The second is that, like I said, 2/3 of your activities have to be in those areas of focus or geographies of focus. And the third is that you should not be one of the excluded organizations, which include political parties, religious organizations, trade organizations, real estate companies, excluding affordable housing companies, etc., right? So before you can get onto the social stock exchange, you have to kind of pass this primacy of social intent filter, which, if you think about it, doesn't exist on the CSR side, right? The second is that there is a registration process that an entity has to go through, which essentially is broadly based on the Section 135 guidelines. So it includes, you have to be a society, trust, or a Section 8 company. You have to have a track record of 3 years. But we've also, I have to have a 12A ATG, etc. But we've also added certain size criteria, being cognizant of the fact that being on the social stock exchange will require additional disclosures, will require additional reporting, which will be an added cost, and therefore only organizations above a certain size who have the budgets to be able to put in that money should be allowed to come onto the platform. And it is in line with the way a stock exchange functions. We have lakhs of companies in India, but only 7,000 listed on the stock exchange, right? So the second criteria is the registration criteria, and an NPO has to clear that registration criteria. The criteria also include certain disclosures relating to your vision, the social impact you're creating, your track record, your financials, etc. The important thing is that an NPO can be registered on the social stock exchange, but doesn't necessarily have to raise funds. That is the third step. So as an NPO, I can be registered on the social stock exchange, and however raise funds only as and when I am ready to start the project for which I need funding or the requirement for funding arises, right? When such a need arises, that is when what Abhishek was talking about, the zero coupon, zero principal instrument, which is essentially a donation or a grant that can get listed on the social stock exchange, and investors, in this case, social investors, can subscribe to that issue. Right? And there are certain criteria. So as an example, there has to be an offer document that has to be put together for that ZCZP listing. that offer documents format template is given in the notifications issued by SEBI, right? And it has to be prepared by a competent authority, and we have to get into some of these. Some of these things will evolve as we go along. The offer document has to receive in principle approval by the social stock exchange, upon which the instrument can get listed and investors can apply. The minimum issue size is 1 crore and the minimum subscription can be for 2 lakhs. Equally importantly, and Abhishek, please correct me if I misspeak at any point. Equally importantly, the instruments have to be held in a DMAT form. So these are not physical instruments.
Yes, sir. You're right.
Not certificates, but actually have to be held in electronic form. So NPOs that do want to raise funds also have to have the requisite DMAT account, ISIN, codes, etc. The process that goes along with having a dematerialized security. And then there are regular disclosure requirements and annual disclosure, as well as, to what Abhishek was saying, a social audit function that is also being put into to be as a part of the process, which acts as an independent check on the outcomes that are being created through your project, right? So broadly, there is, if you think about the way a normal functioning of CSR projects, etc., there's a little more structure, a little more rigor, a little more transparency that has been put into place for a social stock exchange funded project, if you want to call it that. And I think we are going to make a start with NPOs and with ZCZPs, and then as we evolve, we shall also be looking at the more innovative instruments like development impact bonds and social venture funds, etc. So I'll stop there and I will open to any questions at whatever point is appropriate. Pawanji, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Hemant. The question answer will take it after all the discussion.
Sure.
And there are so many questions already with me and on the system. Now, friends, as you are aware, that the two regulators, because I treat stock exchange as a regulator. Okay, so they have discussed, have informed that what is the issue. Now you should understand that what is a stock exchange, social stock exchange, what are the laws, what are the things is they prescribed by SEBI, and how to implement this. So I will request Nitesh to tell us about the social section in a very crispy manner, and how and why this was a need.
Good afternoon, friends. Thank you, Pawan sir, for giving me opportunity again to speak on the social stock exchange, as we have already held the similar webinar based upon the recommendation of the committees. So I will be presenting one presentation on this new social stock exchange notified by the SEBI recently. So this PPT will be divided into two parts. The first part will be, we will be discussing on the present working and structure of the NGOs, how they are working, how they are raising funds, and some few definitions which are introduced in the new regulation by the SEBI. The second part will be, we will be discussing the fundraising mechanism and its compliance thereon to be taken care of by the NGOs, which will be taken by Ms. Anjali Agarwal, the other panelist. So there are the voluntary, these are the called for voluntary organization or NGO, whatever you call it. So there are three types of NGOs or voluntary organization prevalent in India. So these are society, which are registered under Society Act. So here it is pertinent to point out that the Society Registration Act is a union law, and it has also a state laws where they also need to be registered. And then there's a trust where if you want to establish a public trust, so you need to be registered with the public trust. So there are also various state laws in which you need to be registered. The other one is a Section 8 company. So it is a company registered under Companies Act, but whose objective is not to earn profit, but for the betterment of the society. So what is this current source of funding? So So there is no such fixed data available in any government domain, or there is no data released by the government to determine how many NGOs are there in India. So on an approximate basis, on estimation basis by some private organization, they say there are more than 30 lakh NGOs operating in India. And more importantly, last 2 years, we have read the news that so many NGOs are out of their business due to lack of funding due to COVID. So there's also no data available with respect to the NGOs which have been closed due to non-availability of funds. So the present source of funds are the government aid, which directly received from the government and the ministries, and the individuals like us who wants to donate something for the betterment of anything which is for the society. And the third one is foreign contribution, and the fourth one is CSR contribution, which is the CSR contribution is mandatory obligation which a profit making entity has to contribute towards the society. So there's no data available with respect to the government aid and the individual which they give it, because they do it privately. So there's no data, whatever be the collection received from the individual donors. So there's a data available with respect to a CSR contribution, which is available on the MCA portal. So if you see the CSR contribution since inception, when this CSR obligation is introduced in 2014-15 under the Companies Act. So starting with the first year is 14-15, where the company donated around more than 10,000 crore, and it increasing every year. Now the latest data available as of 2021 is 24,000 crore. So the 24,000 crore is a very big number which the corporates are donating towards the CSR. It is the data, it is the CSR contribution which made. There are many companies which did not contribute towards the CSR, which failed to contribute their CSR obligations. So it is very important to understand how CSR contribution is being made by the corporates. If you see the data available, that there are top 10 contributors of in terms of the contribution made by the top 10 companies. So if you analyze, if you check their mechanism of contributing towards CSR contribution, so majority of their contribution are made in their own NGOs. So they do not give much importance, or they do not contribute to the small NGOs. And there are big numbers are small NGOs which are closed due to non-availability of funds. And there are also the company is also contributing towards Prime Minister Care Fund. So these are the two areas where the corporates generally contribute. Either they contribute to their related parties or related NGOs, or they contribute to the Prime Minister Care Fund. So the smaller NGOs, they do not get the benefit of the CSR, which the actually purpose is to help the smaller NGOs or genuine NGOs who actually work on the ground field. So that is missing on behalf of the corporates, which they have to do it in order to achieve the goals, to achieve the sustainable development goals in the real sense. So the issues faced by the NGOs are that they lack trust. They lack trust of individuals. They lack trust of they lack trust of corporates, because of different reasons. Because they do not disclose how much they have raised, how much they have utilized, how much they have not utilized. There is a lack of impact assessment. So whatever their contribution is, how their contribution impacting the society. There is no such social audit of such contribution made by the donors. And also there is no single window clearance with respect to the government, because if you have to go to the government to have some funds, to have some donation from the government. So there is a different ministry deal with such a part. If you want to if you want to do something in the health sector, you have to approach Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. In case you want to contribute to our welfare of women and children, you have to go to that ministry. And every ministry has its own SOPs, own checklist, own criteria. So you have to comply with that checklist. And there are multiple regulators as well, because if you are a trust, so there's a different so there are income tax, and there are the state regulator, which has the power to enforce anything. So they are the different regulators, like Registrar of Trust, Registrar of Society, and Ministry of Corporate Affairs in case of Section 8 company. And over and above, there's new notification issued by the Income Tax Department that you have to renew your exemption certificate 80G and 10 and 12 AA for every 5 years. So there is an enforcement by the income tax as well. So why this social stock exchange required? So why the social stock exchange required? Because there is a trust deficit. There's a gap between the donation and the eligible NGOs which want to raise funds quickly. And so there's a gap between the donation, between the donor and the NGOs. So there is a 2 group committees which were constituted, on the basis of which this social framework is introduced by SEBI. So there is a chapter introduced under ICDR regulation and its compliance under listing regulations. So what is the difference between the normal stock exchange and the social stock exchange? So there's no much difference. The difference is between that the normal stock exchanges work on the basis of the profits of the investors, whereas the social stock exchange is based upon the social return. The social return which the donor wants to achieve, the social return which the donor wants to create impact on the society with their respective donation. So social stock exchange is nothing but providing a platform where they bring together the investors and the NGOs. So, and whose principal business is the social welfare. So in order to list on the social stock exchange, there's something to be listed on the social stock exchange. That is, there's an instrument called zero coupon, zero principal bond, which will be listed. So it is nothing but a raising of funds by the NGOs who raise funds by issue of such instruments, a social instrument, just like equity in case of the normal companies. So social stock exchange, the purpose of the social stock exchange is to replace the conventional capital with the social capital. And by this, they will be unlocking the large pool of social capital. And whatever be the return will be the social return. A return will be the satisfaction which you receive, which you will be able to reap if the project is completed. If the project is completed and the objective for which the donation is made and the fund is raised is useful to the society. And it also helpful for the investors, donors, and social enterprises, because once they achieve their objective, they will be able to raise further capital from the market. And more of it is very important that it gives confidence to the smaller NGOs. It will give confidence to other NGOs to list on the social stock exchange, or even first register and evolve themselves, and if they are comfortable and go into the market to raise funds. So what is social stock exchange as defined by the SEBI under new mechanism? So social stock exchange is not a new stock exchange, but it will be housed in the current stock exchanges, that is NSE, BSE, which have a nationwide trading terminal. So it will be housed in either of the stock exchange or in both of the stock exchanges. where it will be permitted, you will be permitted to either register yourself and to register as well as list your securities. So they have defined, they have categorized the eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria that in case you, the eligibility criteria for entering into this mechanism is either you need to register yourself, or you need to register yourself or raise funds and get your instruments listed. And second is for-profit enterprise, which works for the profit, which want to identify themselves as a social enterprise. So the social enterprise, they have defined the word, they have defined the term social enterprise means either a for-profit enterprises and or not-for-profit organization, which meets the eligibility criteria. First, they have to register either as a trust, either as a society, either as a Section 8 company, or any other entity as may be specified by the board. As such, there's no such any other entity as of now. For-profit organization is something that whose objective is to earn profit, but they do not registered as a Section 8 company. They are a normal company, just like raising funds and earn profit. And there is a new term as social auditor, because whatever be the NGOs raising funds from the market. So it is not about profit and loss. It is about the impact they create with their donation, the impact they create with their project. So the social auditor is something which audit the impact on the society. And then the criteria of being a social auditor is something different. First of all, he must be a member of ICAI, and he must qualify the certificate program conducted by NISM and holds that certificate as on date when he becomes a social auditor. And of course, there is a 3-year track record of conducting the social audit. So there is a criteria of being considered as a social enterprise. So you must have an activity of education, art and culture, employability, welfare of migrants, displaced persons, gender equality, child welfare, environmental sustainability, sports, healthcare, and many more. There are 14 activities which are listed out in the regulations. So these are more or less the Schedule 7 under Companies Act where CSR is eligible. And these are all derived from the United Nations SDG goals. So Sustainable Development Goals. All are based upon the SDG goals, which the India to which the India is a party, where they have agreed to achieve the social development goals by 2030. So it is one step towards that direction. So the second criteria is the beneficiary. So the whole idea of social stock exchange, or even the whole idea of these kind of activities, is to provide benefit to the underserved and less privileged population or region where you need development. So if you want, so the beneficiaries are something underserved or less privileged people or less privileged. So they are more or less the you can say the lowest pyramid, the lowest level of which are basically on the below poverty line people. The third criteria is respect to that your for social for-profit social enterprises. The third criteria must be that your expenditure must be 67% preceding 3-year average. So your expenditure or your whatever be your objective is to achieve, your objective must be determined if you spend 67% towards towards the activities which are provided in the which are provided, the activities which we discussed. And the revenue whichever we are generating, it must be 67% preceding 3 years average coming from the eligible activities to the members. Here the members is very important, that the members is the target population which we just discussed with respect to the underprivileged society. So the whatever be the revenue, whatever be the expenditure, they must be towards those underprivileged population, underprivileged members of the society. So they have also categorized, the regulation has also categorized that who cannot be a social enterprise, even if you comply with all the criteria. The corporate funding, because they are already funded by the corporates. So the big corporates have their own NGOs, so those NGOs are not applicable. The second part is the political or religious organization. Professional or trade association like FICCI, ASSOCHAM, they are also not eligible. The infrastructure and housing companies, they are also not eligible, but affordable housing are eligible. So that is from my side. Pawan sir, over to you.
Yeah, Nitesh, now you have given the background of this. Now turn to Anjali, that Anjali, the law, ICDR and LODR, they have changed. So what are the important things? How much money I can raise? What is the limit? A small investor can join. What disclosure I have to give? What are the impact on this to bring out issue? Please, over to you.
Good evening, all. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, do slides more.
I'm doing that. I'm doing that. Yeah. Good evening, friends. It's my pleasure to be able to make a small contribution to this social cause and the development of this important new concept, a novel concept for the Indian stock exchanges or the Indian fundraising movement. It is my pleasure. I also thank you all my earlier speakers to elaborate upon the social enterprises and also the concept of social stock exchanges. But we all know wherever there is public money involved, there have to be regulatory risk disclosures, there have to be regulatory provisions. Thus, I'm trying to cover the provisions, the amendments which have been made in the SEBI ICDR regulations and SEBI listing regulations, and simultaneously corresponding alternate investment fund regulations for the purpose of enabling the social stock exchange. So a new chapter has been inserted in the ICDR regulations, which is chapter 10A. Under the listing regulations, chapter 9A, and some regulations have been amended in AIF regulations. ICDR regulations broadly cover how to raise money for any of the organizations, be it a normal company, be it a social enterprise, how to raise money. Once you have raised the money, then the role of listing regulations come into play as to what to disclose, how to disclose, and when to disclose. And AIF regulations, where from will the funds come, where from will the funds arise, are the broad parameters. Now, when we talk about the ICDR regulations, half of the portion has already been covered by my co-panelist Nitesh as to what is a social enterprise, what is a social stock exchange, which all entities are eligible to be a part of social enterprise. I'll be covering the fundraising, how to raise money. Instruments which have been allowed by SEBI for fundraising for a social enterprise. As Mr. Hemant also said, these are zero coupon, zero convertible bonds. Presently, these are the only instruments which have been prescribed. There can be, in future, there can be further development impact bonds as well. Then donations through mutual fund schemes can also be there. And SEBI from time to time may specify any other means as whatever SEBI may deem fit. Now, when we talk about a public issue of a ZCZB, one has to This is with regard to for-profit organizations. For-profit organizations can be normal companies which will be listed on the normal stock exchanges, be it main board or SME exchange. So they can raise money by way of issuance of equity shares on their respective platforms, be it main board or IGP or AIFs. It can be issuance of debt securities as well. And herein again, anything which SEBI prescribes from time to time. One thing which has been mandated in the regulations is such for-profit organizations, there will be an identifier that the script belongs to for-profit social enterprise. Now, what exactly are zero coupon, zero convertible, zero coupon, zero principal instruments? These have to be issued only by a non-profit organization registered on a social stock exchange, and they have to be for a specific tenure. They cannot be an open-ended instrument. They have to be for a specific tenure only. The issue has to be made only for a specific project or an activity. If your one of the principal activities is hunger eradication, you have to accordingly issue these bonds for the specific project or activity, and again for a specific duration. The specific project or activity must fall within the list of activities as specified within the definition of social enterprise. That's a list of around 17 activities which have been prescribed by SEBI, and issued without any coupon or without any principal, and no principal amount shall be payable on maturity. As Mr. Gupta said, this is a donation. As Abhishek also said, this is a donation. So there will not be any interest or maturity payable at the time of maturity. Now, who can invest in zero coupon, zero principal instruments? They have been mandated institutional investors as well as non-institutional investors. Although the terms have not been defined in ICDR regulations, but institutional investors have been defined for the specific purpose of Innovators Growth Platform, which includes a QIB or a family trust or intermediary with net worth of more than 500 crores. So we can presume the same definition to follow for the purpose of social enterprises as well. And a non-institutional investor means an investor other than a retail institutional investor or a QIB. Retail institutional investor has been defined under the ICDR regulations, wherein the person who's investing limit is 2 lakh rupees. Now, modes for issuance of zero coupon, zero convertible principal instruments. One very important provision which I would like to mention here, when the discussion paper came last year, there was this confusion whether these ZCZP instruments will fall within the ambit of a security or not. SEBI Vided circular dated 15th July has clarified that these will be falling within the ambit of security. So now these ZCZPs will be covered within the definition of a security. Now, coming to the modes, it can be a public issue to institutional or non-institutional investors. It can be a private placement, but private placement of these ZCZPs can only be to a social impact fund which is registered under the AIF regulations. The concept of social impact funds I'll be taking up in coming slides, which have been promulgated newly in the AIF regulations. Now, the procedure for public issuance of ZCZPs by a non-profit organization. Just like we do in a normal company, we have to file a draft fundraising document with the social stock exchange. Say we don't have to file it with SEBI. We have to file it only with the social stock exchange. Along with the applicable fees, we need to obtain an in-principle approval. Again, DFRD will be kept open for public comments for a period of 21 days. Same is the provision in normal public issues as well. Social stock exchange has to give its observations within 30 days from the date of filing of the draft document, or in case any correspondence is going on from the last clarification sought. Then the NPO, non-profit organization, has to incorporate whatever observations are given by the social stock exchange and then file the final fundraising document with SEBI. with the SSC. As per conditions which are applicable to a normal public issue will be applicable. Then in principle approval has to be obtained. Depositories, connectivity with depositories has to be there. Allotment has to be made in DMAT mode. All those conditions will follow here as well. And an NPO issues ZC, ZPs on private placement basis, as I mentioned earlier, yes, they can be issued, but only to a social impact fund as registered under SEBI AIF regulations. One of the other provisions which has been mentioned in the listing in the ICDR regulations is that the provisions relating to public issuance of ZC, ZPs shall apply mutatis mutandis to ZC, ZPs issues on private placement basis as well. I feel that there may be some of the provisions which may not be applicable to a private placement of ZCZPs, which may be there for a public issuance, but stock exchanges and SEBI are working upon it. Now, one of other conditions with regard to issuance of ZCZPs. These are the important conditions. Minimum issue size of 1 crore. So any non-profit organization wants to come out with a public issue, they can come out with a size of only 1 crore as well. It's not that you have to come out with a big issue. Then minimum application size is 2 lakh rupees. Here in whether a retail investor who wants to invest, say, 2,50,000 rupees, who wants to contribute to a particular social cause, whether he or she can make an application or not is needed to be looked into. Minimum subscription required is 75% of the issue size, as compared to a normal public issue wherein the minimum subscription is 90%, because it is for a social cause. So regulators have very well kept it within the up to 75%. However, in the offer document, it is needed to be mentioned that in case there is under subscription, how will the fund, how will the enterprise raise the remaining funds between 75 to 100%, and what will be the impact on the social objective in case this money is not received. Then in case 75% is not received, the funds are needed to be refunded, which is there in a normal public issue. Then NPOs have to comply with Rule 19 of the SCRR. Rule 19 talks about the conditions for a public issue, wherein articles, the company must be having articles, a company must be having the financial statements for last 5 years, what all conditions are there. And one of the most important conditions, as mentioned in Rule 19, is the minimum 25% offer to the public shareholders, to the public at large. This I would want to understand better from the regulators as to how this particular portion will be covered. Once you are listed doesn't mean that you'll remain listed throughout. So there is a provision for termination of listing as well. Termination can happen under 2 situations. Once the object for which the fund was raised has been achieved and a certificate to that respect has been given to the social stock exchange, or the tenure as stated in the fundraising document towards the object has been attained. Now you have raised money. Now comes the part of disclosures, wherein public has to be disseminated as to what all you have done with the money. As Nitesh also said, that there is a trust problem, that people do not really trust as to if I've contributed 5,000 rupees to a particular cause, whether it has been utilized towards that cause or not. This is where the listing regulations will come into play. So annual disclosures are needed to be made within 60 days of the end of the financial year. Format is yet to be prescribed by SEBI. This is applicable for non-profit organizations which are merely registered, and as well as for the non-profit organizations whose securities are listed on the social stock exchange. With regard to for-profit social enterprises, because they are listed on their respective under the respective chapters of ICDR, either on the main board or on the SME exchange. So the provisions as applicable under the respective chapters will be applicable. Now, quarterly disclosure for a NPO which is merely registered as a registered on the social and SSE exchange, there is no quarterly disclosure. But for a NPO which has raised funds, a statement of utilization of funds is needed to be given. This is to be given category wise amount of funds utilized and funds raised. Another important condition which has been mentioned in the regulations, it's not coming complete, the sentence is not coming complete here. So any unutilized money is needed to be kept in a separate bank account and is not it cannot be mingled with other money or the other proceeds that the fund that the social enterprise may keep on receiving. Then event-based disclosures for a NPO merely registered on the stock exchange, not required. But for a NPO which has raised funds or for a for-profit social enterprise, any event that may have a material impact on the planned achievement of the outputs is needed to be disclosed within 7 days of the occurrence of the event. In a normal listed company, this provision is more famously known as Schedule 3 of listing regulations, which is needed to be disclosed maximum within 24 hours. So herein the time allowed is 7 days. So what can be this kind of an event? For example, if the social enterprise acquires some land or some property, or if some legal dispute happens, then these kinds of disclosures may have an impact on the social cause for which it has raised funds. So accordingly, this disclosure is needed to be given. The fund has to prepare, this is a materiality policy. This is for the NPOs whose securities are listed, as well as for-profit social enterprises which are registered. They have to prepare a materiality policy. An annual impact report is needed to be submitted to the social stock exchange. Time period and format are yet to be prescribed by SEBI, but this is going to be the most important document from the public perspective, because this is going to be your report card in a way, to show to the public, to depict to the world as to what all activities have you done during a year, how much impact have you been able to make to the society at large by virtue of the funds that you raised, or by virtue of the objective that you mentioned in your charter. Now, amendments in the AIF regulations. A new concept of social impact fund has been brought in. Social impact fund means a AIF which invests in units, securities, or partnership interest of social ventures or securities of a social enterprise, and which satisfies the social performance norms laid down by the firm. Now, herein, a new concept of social units has also been defined, which was not there in the erstwhile regulations. Units issued by the social impact funds or the schemes of social impact funds to investors who have agreed to receive only social returns. So as Mr. Gupta said, donation, or as Nitesh said that you will not be getting any returns. So you are getting only, even the investor is agreeing that it will receive only social returns or benefits and no financial returns against their contributions. One important change which has been done by way of these regulations is social welfare funds, social venture funds have been replaced by the term social impact funds. Social impact funds have been included as a part of category 1 AIFs. Presently, there are only 14 special social venture funds which are there in the country, and this concept is needed to be more propagated so that more and more of social impact funds are created with bigger corpus. So some of the changes which have been brought in the AIF regulations, it has been, now the new provision is issuance of social units to investors by social impact funds. under the present regulations, there is no such provision. Then minimum corpus of the SIFs has been reduced to 25 crores. Under the erstwhile regulation, minimum corpus of AIF schemes was 25 crores. Then minimum SIF investment value has been mandated to be 2 lakh rupees. Whereas under the erstwhile provisions, minimum AIF investment value was 1 crore rupees. And in case any employees or directors of the AIF invest, then it was 25 lakh rupees. It's not 25 crores, it's 25 lakh rupees. So which has been reduced to 2 lakh rupees. Amount of grant that may be accepted by the fund from any person has been reduced to 10 lakh rupees as against present 25 lakh rupees. So from these provisions, from these amendments, we can understand that SEBI wants more and more funds to come forward, more people to invest into these funds, removing the investment limit or reducing the investment limit to from 1 crore to 2 lakh is a step towards that direction only. Then SIF funds or schemes launched exclusively for NPO, whether only registered or listed, are permitted to deploy 100% of the funds in the securities of the NPOs. Presently, there is no such provision. Then at least 75% of the investable funds to be invested in unlisted securities, partnership interest, or units of social ventures. Till now, it was there in the present regulations as well. But one more investable opportunity has been brought in, which is securities of a social enterprise. So the AIF can invest in the securities of a social enterprise. So these were the gist of some of the provisions, some of the regulatory amendments which have been brought in. I'll pause here only and I'll be open to question answers. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you very much for giving the entire legal provision, and this will definitely help. And people will understand that there is a very important slide which you have shown, that you can raise money 1 crore rupees and each investor can invest 2 lakh rupees, and 75% you can bring. Less we will discuss in the question answer. Okay, now over to you, Rachna. How stock exchange are gearing up to provide the platforms of social funding? How preparatory work has done, and how much, what times you are expecting it will take? What is?
Yeah, thanks, Pavan, for having me on this session. And I think a lot has been spoken today about the social stock exchange. A lot of clarity has been provided. So if you ask the exchanges, their expertise lies in providing platforms. Expertise has already been proven. As we understand today, the Indian capital markets, the GDP or the market cap of this Indian capital markets is exceeding the GDP of the country as well. So that's the growth that the capital markets in India has shown. And we also know that we've already tapped the potentials of the institutional investors as well as domestic investors into the capital markets. And we've really, set up a benchmark, which is not only Indian stock exchanges are very proud to say that we've set benchmarks which have been globally accepted and applauded by the global capital markets. So I think the expertise lies with the exchanges to provide a platform, and social stock exchange is a platform where we need to bring in the gap of, the social funding that has been the gap that has been in existence. And it's very important that all the investors which are participating in the capital markets also have an avenue to channelize the social capital using this social stock exchange mechanism. So the various tools that have been introduced by the regulator, whether it is a ZCZP bond, or it is the social impact fund, which with the changed avatar, or the development impact bond, the innovator fund, the innovation tool that we have introduced, are all kind of, either classified as an equity tool, or it could be as a debt tool. So exchanges have both the platforms available where they can actually see that how to get the social investors also onto this platform, and make the platform more, I would say, more easy to access and invest by the investors. And it's also important that we provide an equally friendly platform which allows NPOs to register without much of an onerous on a time consuming process. So we've already seen that the NPOs have an option to either register only and register and list, and the foreign and the for-profit enterprises can list using the various fundraising avenues, which is they can list either on the SME segment, or they can list on the innovators growth platform, or they can list on the main board of the exchanges. So I think the framework for the for-profit enterprises is already in place with the kind of category that they can choose to list themselves on. And for the NPOs, I think the endeavor will be by the exchange and by the regulator is to make the process as seamless as possible. The other important thing that the stock exchanges are gearing up is to build an ecosystem, because it's important that we have an enabling ecosystem to help develop the social stock exchange and to have it flourishing as well. So what is important is, and I think we've learned over the 10 years with the small and medium enterprise platform being launched in 2012, I think both the exchanges have fairly developed the ecosystem well for SMEs, and we will have to work similarly with the social investors. We will have to work with the non-profit enterprises, not only for awareness creation, because that's one important thing which we will actually have to start with, awareness creation, but it's important also that we develop capacity within these NPOs to meet not only the onboarding requirements, but also the continuous disclosures that will be required from time to time. So the capacity building fund that has been introduced will also have to be deployed in such a manner that we are able to build the capacity and make it a sustainable platform and a sustainable NPOs that they can actually come. So we've seen a lot of, we've seen that a lot of foreign jurisdictions took up their initiatives to launch social stock exchange. And while we started this program, we saw that 3 of them and 4 of them are still active. The other ones have actually died down. So I think the important point during the discussion paper was that, yes, we need to have a self-sustaining platform as well. So the other initiative that exchanges would delve much deeper would be into creating this capacity, creating this platform to be in such a manner that's sustainable on its own. So that's important. When it comes to timelines and when it comes to designing the platform, I said that that's our forte, that exchanges will be really doing, and we are going to be working so closely with the ecosystem on this that we don't see much challenges in the readiness of the platform. It's more about getting the whole process in place. And I think the regulator has put up the notifications the last 10 days, and both exchanges are gearing up to see that how we can actually get the ecosystem up and running, so that we are able to get more and more NPOs and the FPs list or register onto the stock exchanges, and we actually use the platform, the capital market platforms, to channelize the social capital and see worthwhile projects being implemented, because we are already the top in the globally we are amongst the top exchange, and we also need to replicate the same for the social stock exchange, that we have a very, very vibrant social stock exchange as well, which is sustainable. Over to you, Pavan, and I think I'll be open for questions.
Thank you very much, Rachna. You have given me a crux that what is stock exchange is planning and some insight because you were the part. Now, we all are the Bharatis. Now, actual Dula is Professor Khanna, who is the NGO, and they require fund and they require all these things. So over to you, Professor Khanna, because I know how much problem a NGO, because I was in CRC, now I'm in the voice, so I can understand every penny you are struggling, every money you are spending very wisely and miserly, because the source of fund are limited. And because of that reason, sometimes the quality and the impact which you want to create is missing. Now, please tell us what is the real problem of NGOs, and second is how you see that this can impact. And then there is some questions which I think we can ask from Abhishek and Hemant and Rachna, which Professor Khanna has about the Consumer Association, whether they can raise fund or not. Over to you, Professor Khanna. You have to unmute, sir, yourself. Professor Khanna, you have to unmute yourself. Sir.
Yeah. Can
Now
you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, okay.
Okay. Pawanji, thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity. I have heard with great intent to Abhishek ji, Hemant Gupta ji, Nitesh ji, Anjali ji, and Rachna ji, and I am letting you know that in the last hour or so that I have heard this, it looks like I have been listening to music from R.D. Burman. It is music to my ears. आप समझिए कि जो बात मैं सुन रहा हूं, it is like offering a glass of water to someone who has traveled in the desert for days without water.
यार दूल्हे को दुल्हन मिल गई सर, ये भी तो हो सकता है.
अब वो देखिए वो दुल्हन है या कुछ पनौती है, ये तो बाद में पता लगेगा. क्योंकि in this field, I got involved in social work in the consumer protection, consumer rights, consumer education area in 1983, when I was appointed as a junior lecturer at the Delhi School of Economics on the campus. And I used to teach marketing to my students. And there I read about the consumer movement of USA, Ralph Nader and others. I was inspired and we set up this body of students and teachers on the campus 39 years ago. So since then, we have had many avatars. We set up a trust founded by Justice Tarkunde in 1986. Then we set up a society in 1996. We started publishing a magazine. And each stage, and let me tell you, every year I had to have a begging bowl in my hand. Because you have to go out and ask for money. And this is not taking money from investors, because you are not offering them a financial return. You're only saying that we are doing this good work for the society. In our case, consumer education, consumer rights, and consumer protection. Please give us a grant or a donation. We got money from a few individuals, few and far in between. We got some money from domestic and foreign foundations, and we could use that money. We also got some money from governments, including the central government. But that was like a flip-flop. Kabhi haan, kabhi na, kabhi diya, kabhi mukar gaye. So it was not a smooth ride. And I have I am looking at now the ecosystem of the stock exchange. Who is the investor in stock exchange? The demat account holder. You have 5-6 crores, maybe they are rising. But bulk of the investment comes from those who can, in this case, a minimum investment of 2 lakhs per zero coupon, zero principal bond is only in the cup of tea of the large investors. So these are institutional investors, these are funds, and these are others who are high net worth individuals or institutions. How many are they? जितने आपके डीमैट की पॉपुलेशन है उसका 0.01% भी नहीं होगा ये. I think the stock exchanges know better than that. I don't have the figures. So this is going to be a swayamvar where if I am the dulhan and I have to put, if the investor is the dulhan and she has to put the har in the gale of the dulha, ala swayamvar, then neither the dulhan knows the dullahs nor the dulhan knows the दुल्हन्स. दोनों को एक दूसरे के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं है. और उसके ऊपर ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट जो इन्होंने 2-3 स्पीकर्स ने कही, मैं मानता हूं आपकी बात. आई डू होप ये जो सिस्टम बना रहे हैं ये काम करेगा. और उसका एक ही क्राइटेरिया है कि फाइनेंशियल ईयर के एंड में कितना कैपिटल रेज किया गया और कितने नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अकाउंट में वो गया. This is going to be the biggest thing. And I have been thinking, for example, let me give you the example of our NGO that I'm talking to you about. It is now 39 years old. There is a society and there is a trust. The society has been publishing consumer education material. We have a website to educate consumers. Basically, it is consumer education, which will fall under the umbrella of education. It will also fall, we also are involved as a investor advocacy group with SEBI, with a consumer advocacy group with TRAI, as a investor consumer protection group with the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, on the Committee of Insurance Regulatory Authority. So all the regulatory bodies that look after consumer interests, we are recognized by and we have been working with them. But the problem is if you don't have enough money, you cannot build capacity to even implement modest projects. I'll give you one example. After several years of effort, we got a 400 square meters of land in an institutional area in New Delhi, in Rohini. And for the last 39 years, we have been living, housed in residential accommodations, basements, where our offices have operated at a very marginal budget. And we have had to pay salaries to our staff below the market prices. And only God has been kind to us that we have got people to work at below market prices. And we are continuing to exist. The biggest shock we have survived is the COVID. Many of our colleagues and other organizations have closed down. But God has been kind to us and we have survived. And perhaps this survival was meant to list on the social stock exchange. I am seriously going to advise our board to consider listing on the stock exchange, primarily to build what we are designed as a consumer education and research institute, which there is none in India. And we are hoping to raise enough money to create a building and do the consumer education and research activities, prominent among which are comparative testing of consumer products. Different brands of products, consumer products in the market are selected. They are bought by us, sent to laboratories, tested, compared and ranked. And we give them marks out of 100 so that you can find out which has a better quality and value for money as compared to the other. And this is invariably an area where we are in conflict with most of the brand owners. जैसे ही हमारी रिपोर्ट आती है तलवारें खिंच जाती हैं. They give us legal notices, they give us threats, they try to win us over, but we have survived. And we have tested more than 250 categories of consumer products, each test involving 10 to 15 brands which are available on a national basis. And out of these 250 categories, only one has gone to court, where one of the brands has sued us because their rival became number one in this. But this is a part of our business, our consumer protection business. We have to protect consumer interests and guard them from commercial interests. So I am looking at whatever has been, put in the amendments to these three regulations by the SEBI as a welcome step to provide blood transfusion to somebody who's already in an ICU. Because all the organizations that I know, in my field of consumer education, there are maybe 1,000 organizations, only 2 of them have a building of their own all over India. Most of them do not have even one full-time staff. Most of them are run by volunteers. And they are unable to raise money. Most of them don't even have ATG certificates. Luckily, we have ATG and 12A and also FCRA registration. And we have been able to get some funds from that route. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And God, be kind on the NSE and the BSE. If you're able to pull this off, and if you can create this social stock exchange to do what it claims, what I've heard in this lecture by 5 of you before who were speaking before me, I think it will be a great job done. And I think it is a good beginning. And may I request the NSE and BSE representatives who are listening here or logged in here to please ensure that by Diwali, you have at least a dozen non-profit organizations listed and raising money from your platform. And I do wish you all the best. And I do hope that there will be people to look at the problems faced in case of individual applications. They will require handholdings. For example, my organization doesn't have the capacity to even draft an offer document. Of course, we have drafted memorandums to NGOs and foundations seeking donations, but how to draft and how to list, we don't know. And this is probably we'll have to learn by doing. So with these words, Pawanji, I thank you for inviting me here and sharing my experience. And I am available for questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you have rightly embraced this particular new concept representing NGOs, that this is the need of hour and everybody was waiting for this type of thing. In my opinion, after listening to all, that there is a possibility that a stock exchange of social stock exchange will become one place where all NGO will register, all NGO will get fund, disclose, and they will grow, and the country's social impact will enhance multifold. This is my expectation on this. Now, we have received various question answer. So I will just take up one by one. So because this is a new subject, I'm not expecting everybody is expert, but anybody who is, I will ask, but anybody wants to add, they can add. Notified regulation do not contain anything about capacity building fund recommended by the group. Any view on this? Hemant sir and Rachna, you can tell us, or Nitesh, you have studied this. Capacity building.
The capacity building fund is not, it should not form part of the regulation because it's because it's kind of guidance provided by some.
So Hemant, anything the law, the regulator has thought that this capacity building fund is not required? Because
So the
the capacity.
yes. Sorry, Hemant, continue.
Yeah. The capacity building fund is an enabling mechanism that has been recommended by the technical group. I don't think it comes strictly under the ambit of a securities market notification that SEBI would do. There is a parallel process which is running for setting up the capacity building fund, for finding contributors to it, etc. But that will not be a securities market notification. Rachna, you want to add anything?
No, you rightly said, Hemant, currently also both the stock exchanges have been doing their bit in building the capacity and the ecosystem across the corporates, whether it was the smaller, medium enterprises or the larger boards or the other companies. So capacity building fund is just a mechanism and an enabler which will help us develop the NPO capacity. So I don't think so it has to form part of the regulatory guidelines. It's there and the contributors to it would be governing it in the manner that is befitting to build this platform and to create more and more awareness and enrich the NPOs.
Okay. There is a question from UP Social Impact Technology Limited. Mr. Shri Prasad is asking, is there a digital platform available for profit and not for profit organization on which they can register and showcase projects and fund requirement? What is the minimum size of funds that can be raised on the social exchange? I think Mr. Prasad, this is, Anjali has mentioned 1 crore and 2 lakh rupees from one investor is not allowed to do the small investor. But Rachna, is there a digital platform available for the non-profit and not profit organization?
See, for profit enterprises, the current mechanism that is already available will be there. So for profit enterprises, they can choose to list by the size of their organization, whether they want to list onto the main board of the exchange or the foreign SME of the exchange or the innovators growth platform. So for profit enterprises, the situation is as good as any other corporate that is already in place. Okay. For not-for-profit enterprises, after this Gazette notification, obviously both exchanges will be developing and putting up a portal or a platform which will make information available of the NPOs that are going to be registered on the platform. NPOs which will be registered and subsequently raising funds also would be made available on it. Investors participating onto this platform also will be getting a visibility on this through this portal. So I think that is where the portal will be developed or the platform will be showcased. And I think when both the exchanges will launch this, they'll obviously be talking about it and explaining more in detail and doing the awareness creation to explain the finer nuances of the whole platform. Okay. Or a separate segment. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any Hemant, you are in the process because SEBI can give you guidance, but various things you have to do. There should be a data bank listing all NGOs, just like corporate have a SIN number. The plan is going on that India there are 30 lakh NGO, and tomorrow when there is a need of fund, everybody has to register here, and then you have a SIN number type of things. Is it any plan of like this?
Hemant, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry. So, couple of things, Pawanji. One is that in a way, there already that does that. It's called NGO Darpan. run by the Niti Aayog, which actually has registered NGOs and gives them a unique identification number. So far, it's been utilized by NGOs that work with the government, but there's no reason to create a parallel platform. Why can't we leverage the existing one? The second is that even otherwise, from a stock exchange viewpoint, we are not looking at 100% of the NGO population. So it would not make sense for us to create such a platform, especially when the NGO Darpan platform already exists. Right. So my answer to that question would be, let's use NGO Darpan.
Okay. Rachna, you have any view in this?
No, no.
Okay. Governance issue, monitoring the funds users and the benchmark of this their performance. This somebody is giving. What are the corporate foundations? The word corporate foundation has come. Nitesh, can you tell what are
The corporate foundations which are receiving the funds mostly from their holding companies, so who majorly supported by their corporates, like many companies, like many big corporates, the name may be a Reliance or Infosys, they have their own trust. Tata has its own trust. So these are the trusts which are funded by the corporate.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then simultaneously the institution like Chartered Accountant Company Secretary not allowed.
SOCHM, Vicky not allowed.
Nitesh, just tell me, the value is doing the object which is a part of the social stock exchange object, lay education. So Baju is eligible.
So Baju has this activity which is coming under the eligibility list, but there's one more conditions that whatever be the expenditure, whatever be the revenue should be coming from underprivileged, underserved. So whenever I go for the admission to the Baju, they ask me for the admission fee. So if I don't have the fee, or I am underprivileged or under this underserved population, I'm not allowed to enter into a Baju class.
Okay.
So one thing which is coming to my mind, for example, HDFC Cancer Fund is there, which is a corporate fund, but again it falls within the ambit of a social enterprise. So how does
Anjali, that is not a corporate?
No, that's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, continue. Please continue, Papa.
You tell, because you have. I will answer on the basis of my assumption. You will give answer on the facts. Yeah, please.
No. See, HDFC Cancer Fund is a fund which is floated by one of the mutual fund schemes. Which what it does is the principal is invested into the capital markets, and the returns generated out of it are treated as a kind of a donation which is put into the social sector. So that is the difference. It's not a corporate which has got listed or kind of a thing which has come and raised funds. It's a scheme which is investing into the capital markets and the social sector.
Understood. I mistook it. Yeah.
Okay. Now the problem of Professor Siddhan Khanna. If you read, they are running the NGO, that's Voice Consumer Association. But Consumer Association is neither in the restrictive list nor in the explicit list. So, Hemantji, then I will come to the Professor Khanna if your answer is different. Is it Consumer Association is covered in this? Because they are doing charity work, they are doing, they are helping consumer, they are educating consumer, they are underprivileged people fighting for them. What is your view?
So 2 or 3 things actually. In principle, and this will actually require a more rigorous answer than what I can give on this platform, because there are several other criteria that need to be satisfied before you can register on the social stock exchange. But in principle, I think awareness building has been included in the list of activities, especially if it's targeted towards the underprivileged, as Mr. Latwal was saying. So from an area of focus perspective, I'll have to look at what exactly is done by Voice closely. I've not done that. But in principle, I would say that at least from an area of focus perspective, there is some amount of eligibility available. But we'll also have to look at the quantum of work, the other filters that are there, before we can decide on whether they can be registered.
Rachna, you have any different view?
No, I completely agree there that we'll need to have a more depth understanding there.
You just arrange a ghodi now. Your everything is ready now.
No, I have a question.
And one thing, I just want to add to the whole thing is that list is it's a first list, that has been put up by SEBI after a lot of deliberations at the working group. So I'm sure, and we have Abhishek today on the call, as that, SEBI will be reviewing this list very often to ensure that, in case there is something that is being missed out and genuinely needs attention at the social stock exchange, the list would be reviewed time and again. So that was something which a working group as well as the committee kept repeating at various intervals.
Well, it's nice to hear that. What I would like to ask is, how much time and energy and money will an NGO have to spend for the listing and the issue of the zero? I mean, can you give me a threshold? कोई फीस है, कोई खर्चे हैं, प्रोफेशनल्स को फीस देनी पड़ेगी, कितना खर्चा होगा?
प्रोफेसर साहब, अभी ये सब डिसाइड नहीं हुआ है. Primarily because we want to keep the structure to be something that doesn't act as a barrier, but to Rachna's earlier point, still makes the segment self-sustainable, right? So we still have to work out the modalities of what the fee structure would be, but trust me, it will be nothing compared to what happens in the capital markets today. It will be very reasonable.
देखिए, मैं आपको एक सजेस्ट करना चाहता हूं कि अगर आप कोई फीस रखते भी हो, तो मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, kindly consider let the fees be collected after the funds have been raised as a percentage of funds collected, ताकि जो already जिसकी कमर टूटी हुई है, अगर उससे कहोगे कि पहले पैसा दे और ये पता नहीं है कि तू रेस कर पाएगा नहीं कर पाएगा, तो वो तो बेचारा मर ही जाएगा. इसलिए मेरा आपसे निवेदन है, kindly consider that point.
Khanna, I was expecting an answer from you that stock exchange should pay this money, but you have said differently.
I just want to add to something that Hemant has already said, is that, with respect to timelines, I think the fees issue has already been discussed. With respect to timelines, let me tell you from my experience out of SMEs, the document readiness, the information availability is the key to a quick process, because we have seen in SME segment, which is again quite disorganized with respect to, lack of a lot of huge resources at their fingertips. So we have seen that the moment you have information in a format which will appeal the capital market investors to come in, and you're able to put that information in desired format, I think we have seen IPO hit in 100 days from the day mindset change of the promoter happened, that yes, I want to list. So I think the crucial thing is about even information availability and how much we are able to put it together to disclose in the right manner.
Okay. Please substantiate materiality policy. Anjali, can you tell?
The materiality.
Pavanji, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah, Hemant.
I had another.
Yeah, I know. You can.
Same here. Yeah,
Thank
same
you.
here. Even I'll be stepping out in another 5 minutes, Pavanji, if you don't mind.
So, Anjali, then hold it. Then I have very quick questions, Rachna. Whether registered NGO can issue private placement of ZP to any specified person?
Specified person, I think private placement, they have said very clearly, it can be made to social impact funds and I'm missing the second entity, but Anjali, maybe you can add this, but I think they've defined 2 entities who can get into private placement.
I'll ask a question from Rachna, so she can. So whether registered NGO raised fund outside social exchange is required to disclose the detail of such fund?
Yes, they see every year annual disclosures are required. It will talk about even mobilization of funds and utilization of funds.
So I have mobilized funds outside.
Yes, because sir, once you are registered entity, annual disclosures will become applicable to you.
Okay, this zero coupon is transferable?
Sir, I see no reason why I've not discussed on these modalities, but I have contributed to a cause. If I give it to somebody else, there's absolutely no benefit that's going to happen to anybody. So I really don't know. It's kind of a, I don't know, sir. I've not thought about this. And maybe
STT is connected to this if there's a transferability out.
So STT, did you say securities transaction tax? STT? So we're not envisaging a secondary market here.
Yeah, leave it. In case
sure.
failure of project for which fund is raised get delayed or genuine reason, what shall be the implication on whether the fund have to be refund to the donors?
So again, I think we'll have to take this on a more detail and discussion.
Whether a registered NGO is eligible to raise fund, first it is registered.
Yes, it is to be registered and then raise funds. Yes.
Okay. If the subsequent question is for another project in case of NGO is already listed on one earlier project. So
Yes, they can.
So they can do it. Okay. The minimum amount is 2 lakh is very high. Are you thinking of reducing it? That's the question. I'm Basundra from Excellence Center of Excellence in Alternative Care. As an organization, we find it difficult to raise fund on the foster care because it's a new concept in the country and people fail to understand the children should be raised in the family, not in orphanage. How do we able to do through? I think they will cover in this what she's asking. What is the where to start the process? It is online or offline. So it is both. You have to do offline and both line.
Yes,
In case you're doing good job, Anjali can help you in this. What are the CERC in Ahmedabad doing consumer education research as well? Isn't it? Yes, they are also eligible. What is the amount raised so far in stock exchange? I think stock exchange has not started functioning. So, which is the current social impact funds? I think there are so many social impact funds like the Hdfc Cancer Fund and other fund they are doing. Has the registration started? If when? So, Rachna, what this question is to you?
No, registrations have not yet started. We will be coming up with our detailed frameworks, and we'll be getting talking about this once we are more closer to developing the portal and launching it.
Okay. Can foreign entity invest in social exchange?
Yes, we're talking about institutional investors participating. So yes.
Don't disturb the present structure or constitution of NGO. Keep the compliance simple and self-certification. Have some barriers and credential to some. If you want to take some advantage, you have to do this. So that's the answer of this person. My last question to you: CSR and SS, this social stock exchange will merge somewhere in future.
So there's a committee recommendation that that the CSR should be eligible, that any company which is donating to any NGO which is listed on or registered on social stock exchange, they are allowed to carry out this obligation through this mode, if there's any CSR obligation. But there is no such, because there is some requirement for modification in the Companies Act. Once Companies Act allow it, it is as such not applicable.
Okay, is it not, Professor Khanna, now they are allowing that if you are a company, profit making, you can register. Okay, or I don't want to raise fund, but I want to register and then I will raise fund. Do you think that good organization and genuine organization will come? Maybe you require fund, that's a question. But initially you are registered, then you will raise funds. So multiple organization will not come forward to register. Those who are doing genuine business, they are ready to disclose.
देखिए, मेरे को ये लगता है अगर उसमें रजिस्ट्रेशन का कोई फायदा अकेला नहीं है, अगर फ्यूचर में या नियर फ्यूचर में कोई एनजीओ फंड रेज करना चाहता है इस माध्यम से, तो ही उसको सोचना चाहिए टू स्पेंड टाइम एंड एनर्जी ऑन रजिस्ट्रेशन. केवल शौक के लिए रजिस्टर करने का कोई मतलब ही नहीं है.
पर सर, अगर आपने रजिस्टर्ड कराया और आप यू हैव स्टार्टेड कंप्लाइंग, then your system will also be robust, and the people, when you will raise fund, because they have seen, they have publicized. Sir, I'll tell you the reason. Today, if you are bringing out IPO, then everybody talks about the IPO and money, that you are raising money. But in fact, by bringing out IPO, your biggest service is taking place, that is your marketing, your product marketing, your company marketing, which you cannot get from the market by spending whatever amount you can say. So is it not that when you will be registered, then people, today you are struggling on various aspects, but people are not aware that what the voice is doing. So voice will come and tell to the market automatically and people will understand, oh, these people are doing good job. That will enhance your.
Yes, I think what you are saying, Pavan ji, is quite relevant. इसके बारे में मैंने ज्यादा सोचा नहीं है, परंतु मुझे लगता है कि अगर रजिस्टर करने से एक स्पॉटलाइट आ जाएगी उस एक्टिविटी पे और लोगों को जानकारी मिलेगी तो उसका फायदा है, परंतु कितना फायदा है और कितना खर्चा है, कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस करना पड़ेगा इंडिविजुअल एनजीओ को. आप ये समझ लीजिए, मोस्ट ऑफ द एनजीओज डू नॉट हैव क्वालिफाइड प्रोफेशनल्स who are trained and who have experience in doing this kind of work, and it is not cheap to hire the services of such organizations. आप समझ लीजिए कि हमारी एनजीओ, आप समझ लीजिए कि 3 या 4 लाख रुपए सालाना सैलरी में एक फुल टाइम आदमी को एंगेज करती है. अगर मैं 4 लाख रुपया इस काम में लगा दूंगा तो आई विल बी शॉर्ट ऑफ वन फुल टाइम पर्सन हु विल वर्क 365 days in a year to attain my objectives.
So the important point, which the message is very loud and clear, that those organizations who are really doing good job, their cost aspect has to be taken care by some process here. And you have rightly pointed out that I can't spend money first and then bring out issue. And there is a one problem also. If you are not receiving 75%, then you have to refund. So that is a double payment on your entire process.
पवन जी, फिर मुझे एंकर इन्वेस्टर ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, ये अकेला काम नहीं होगा. आई कैन नॉट लीव इट टू इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स. अगर मुझे 1-2 एंकर इन्वेस्टर मिलेंगे, मुझे 1 करोड़ रुपया रेस करना है, तो मैं 10-10 लाख के 2 एंकर इन्वेस्टर खड़ा करूंगा जो बताएंगे सबको, जी हम पैसा लगा रहे हैं, आप भी लगाओ, तब तो बात बनेगी. परंतु अगर मैं केवल कागजों पे छोड़ दूंगा तो आई एम नॉट श्योर व्हाट विल बी द रिस्पांस.
Anjali, Nitesh, what is the purpose of minimum subscription 75? Because it's a charity, and you are saying you will not, it's not a refund. Once you are giving, so suppose you are receiving 50%, even then it is okay. Why we require like IPO 75%?
So there is a direct connection between the IPO size and the project size. If you want to, let's suppose, build a hospital and that requires 50 crores, and if you do not get that 50 crore, or let's suppose you able to achieve only 25 CR, so the object is not fulfilled. Because you will not be able to build that hospital for the society for which you supposed to do. So that will, the reason behind is this only, because the project will be hampered.
So we can do this. Minimum subscription point can be exemption also if it is something ongoing. Like,
देखिए, मुझे एक बात कहनी है कि कई बार हमारे जो प्रोजेक्ट्स होते हैं वो फेजेस में होते हैं. अगर हम सारे इकट्ठे फेज ले लें तो उसके लिए आप समझिए कि 10 करोड़ रुपया चाहिए, परंतु उसके 4 फेज हैं, 1 करोड़, 2 करोड़, 3 करोड़, 4 करोड़, तो मैं उसको फेज में ले सकता हूं. अगर आप मुझे कहेंगे कि 10 करोड़ का 75% करो, तो वी विल बी थ्रोइंग द बेबी विद द बाथ वाटर, कि मैं अपना पहला फेज भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा उससे. तो अगर पहला फेज में कर लूंगा, जितने पैसे आते हैं मेरे पास, तो मैं सेकंड पे जाने लायक बनूंगा. अगर पहला भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा तो उसका क्या फायदा होगा. तो जो आप इसकी एनालॉजी दे रहे हो ना, इंडस्ट्रियल एंटरप्राइजेस की, प्रोजेक्ट्स की, और सोशल सेक्टर की एक्टिविटीज और इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर की एक्टिविटीज कंपेरेबल नहीं है, अनलेस देयर आर प्रोजेक्ट्स सिमिलर टू प्राइवेट सेक्टर एक्टिविटी लाइक हॉस्पिटल. प्राइवेट सेक्टर में भी है, पब्लिक सेक्टर में भी है, पर कंज्यूमर एजुकेशन है. अगर मुझे 20 कैटेगरीज की प्रोडक्ट टेस्टिंग करनी है और उसमें 2 करोड़ रुपए लगेंगे और मुझे 50 लाख रुपए मिलते हैं, तो मैं 20 की नहीं करूंगा, 5 की कर लूंगा. पर अगर आप मुझे 5 की भी नहीं करने दोगे तो यू विल बी थ्रोइंग द बेबी आउट ऑफ द बाथ वाटर. और हर जितनी एक्टिविटीज आपने लिस्ट करी है क्राइटेरिया में, सोशल इंटेंट क्राइटेरिया में, हर एक्टिविटी का इकोसिस्टम अलग है, हर एक्टिविटी का एनवायरनमेंट अलग है, हर एक्टिविटी के क्राइटेरिया अलग है. आपने इंडस्ट्रियल और कमर्शियल एंटरप्राइजेस को तो बैलेंस शीट के प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट के फ्रेमवर्क में कॉमन बना दिया, but there is no common criteria for comparing the performance of social enterprises in all the 14 activities that you have listed, and many of them you have missed out. तो आपके जो स्टाफ है उसकी एक्सपीरियंस में मुझे नहीं लगता किसी ने किसी सोशल एंटरप्राइज में काम किया होगा, क्योंकि जो आपने बनाया है, आपने कमर्शियल और प्रॉफिट मेकिंग एक्टिविटीज का बैकग्राउंड लेके बनाया है. You have no clue about how social enterprises work at the grassroots. Therefore, what you need to do is you need to hire people who have worked for in social enterprises for 10 or 15 years to bring that experience inside your stock exchanges if you want to make this viable. Thank you.
What we are doing, whatever questions you have, please send it to us. And all the participants have any other question which you have given, please write to us. And we have some other question also on technical point. And SEBI has requested we can send to them so they can issue clarification before they will start. So thank you very much, all my friends. We have received, I think, 35 questions, 19 here and 20 separately I have received. And we have tried to give answer of all. Today, the SEBI and Stock Exchange has a meeting, monthly meeting. So that's why there is some overlapping. But anyway, the SEBI and Stock Exchange has represented. As usually, we are asking one question from everybody by closing this, that what you see in the entire new gamut. So I'll start, Professor Khanna. So in 1 minute, what you can say in the entire new issue which is coming, what you see future?
I think it is a major first step by the stock exchanges and the capital markets to pay attention to the activities in the society which are not profit making, but public service in one way or another. And I think that is also a part of our Vedanta Advait philosophy of doing social work and giving back to the society in whatever way you can. And by, if you can match investors with these non-profit bodies, I think you'll be doing a great service. And I'll also say, jago grahak jago.
Okay. So Professor Khanna, ये भी तो हम कर सकते हैं. हम लोग, because we can also add value. We as a merchant banker can do this work and we can take fees after the successful completion of this.
Yes, I think that is a better way of doing it.
So
कि भाई अगर कोई प्रोफेशनल NGOs को मदद करते हैं तो वो अपनी फीस तय कर दें, but it should be taken after the money has been raised. कि भाई गरीब के जेब में पैसा आएगा तभी आपको देगा ना वो.
Announcing that any NGO is coming to us, we'll take money after, but we'll take commitment that after the money you will receive, you will give. Okay.
It's like दुल्हन घर आ जाएगी तभी बाकी सब एजेंसीज को पैसे मिलेंगे.
We'll do it. Anjali, you're closing.
Sir, when I talk about donation, I personally feel a little reluctant in investing in any of the organizations because I really do not know whether my money is being put for that cause or not. So if whatever has been mandated in these regulations can really be implemented, then it's really going to be a R.D. Burman's music only, as Professor Khanna said. It's going to serve the underprivileged. It's going to serve the entire country as such.
Okay, Nitesh.
So so my recommendation or my thought on this framework is that that the regulation should not be very stringent. This must be a soft touch regulation in the initial year of, let's suppose, 3 to 4 years, so that this ecosystem will get matured. And certain exemptions should also be provided whosoever is making donation, either under Income Tax Act or FCRA. And the success is depend upon the services provided by the social stock exchange. Like this, there must be a capacity building event regularly should be organized by the social stock exchange. Like there must be some investor meet, or there may be you organize a sessions on the investors page, like that. Like other jurisdiction in the other jurisdiction, like in Canada or Jamaica, they are also providing these kind of services, so that the NGO gets matured. Their NGO hand-holding services, in short, they are providing to their NGO, so that they'll get the benefit out of it.
Okay. So thank you very much, Professor Khanna, Anjali, Nitesh, and my other speaker, those who came for this program, Mr. Rachna, Mr. Hemant Gupta, Abhishek. So before closing this, I got a feeling, because I am associated since CRC and Voice, and I know inside the pain of these organizations, those who wants to do good job by putting the best people at a very less cost. I have seen in CRC and here, they are paying peanuts because they don't have money. So by doing this, there is a possibility that their object will come, and we have a 30 lakhs NGO. And if these NGOs are registered here, then good NGO will remain there, other NGO will not be there. Tomorrow, anybody is coming and asking money from me, I will ask, are you registered with Social Stock Exchange? If he say yes, I will commit something. If he's not, then I will not, because I have a disclosure, transparency and everything. And the same thing which I just announced is a really, we are a merchant banker, we can do this work and we'll do this. And I'm offering to Professor Khanna, you will be our first test case. We'll charge money after the successful, and that will also very reasonable fees over cost basis. So we also contribute in the the cause of.
Thank you. Jago Grahak Jago. Thank you.
So thank you very much. And friends, we are coming to end of this program. And as usual, we are continuing our journey. And next Friday, that is 12th, we are having program on the SEBI settlement scheme. As you are aware, there was a order for against the 15,000 investors, those who have done illiquid stocks, option stocks, some manipulative things through broker or through other people. SEBI came out with the scheme, very successful. Out of 15,000, only 2,000 people have come forward. So 13,000 people have not gone. They have gone to the court. SEBI has started proceeding, and this they have now come out with a simplified scheme. And that scheme is simplified, but not for everybody, because they have to do something. It's a consent mechanism. You have to file something. They are asking certain information. It has to be very clearly mentioned. So we are organizing on next Friday, that is 12th, the program on settlement scheme of SEBI in the new format. Oh, and we will threadbare discuss. We'll request SEBI also to join us. So thank you very much, all my colleagues, and thank you all participants.